Once again from DPO Surveillance Equipment. Another lovely day in paradise. Let's see what else is going on. I don't know. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. I'm going to do my 5-mile walk this afternoon, and that'll be my cardio for the day. Then I'll come home, maybe take my cat Lazy Bones for a walk. He likes to take a walk around the neighborhood, so to speak. Probably every other day or so. It doesn't get out. I don't let him out any more consistently than that. There's always dangers for pets, particularly cats, walking around. You know, they can, who knows, dogs can come out of nowhere or whatever. Maybe they'll eat something they're not supposed to eat or something. But anyway, every other day or so is good enough for him. He's pretty happy. He'll eat some grass and leaves, and then he'll be fine when he's out and about walking. It's good for their digestive systems. Other than that, what else is going on? I think Mike Pence is upsetting the Chinese with this rhetoric about Google complying with Chinese laws as far as censoring their internet services in China. I think Pence is going a little bit way beyond areas of concern as far as his position is concerned. What Google is doing is that's called a business decision, and typically, when you make a business decision as a corporation, excuse the noise. You don't need people in Washington second guessing what you're doing, unless Washington wants to set up their own search engine in China and not censor it or something. Then that's different. But I think Google probably thought this out thoroughly within the corporation in terms of whether or not they should offer censorship in China or not. But most corporations doing business in China, there's risks and there's rewards, and more than likely someone decided there's more rewards by being involved in China as compared to the risks associated with not being in China. Anyway, what else is going on? Let's see. Trying to think. There's a number of things that I want to bring to your attention, but I want to make sure everything is brought to your attention in the proper context. Let's see, as far as the economy is concerned, I think you guys should just be cautious out there in terms of not being prepared, just in case we have a severe economic slowdown. I was reading that the automobile industry overall is cutting back on zero interest rate financing, basically because interest rates are going up. Those zero interest loans that you're getting, I think it was 48, 60, 70 months or whatever it was, that's going to be a thing of the past with most automobile manufacturers, because they were offsetting the costs associated with offering zero interest loans. The manufacturers were offsetting that cost because interest rates were low. But when interest rates starts going up, that means that they no longer can cover you guys as far as offsetting the costs of providing those interest-free loans. Now, most people are going to have to pay something, more competitive rate on those car loans. And overall, I'm starting to get the impression that more and more companies are adjusting their pricing and adjusting their business models to account for the sluggishness in the economy and the increase in interest rates and its impact on their bottom lines. Even who was it? J.P. Morgan Chase. I can't remember which financial institution, but could have been Morgan Stanley or one or the other. But anyway, they're talking about doing less loans. Personal loans was a big deal for certain companies like J.P. Morgan and some of the others. They were trying to get into that business in terms of upping their game as far as personal loans, consumer loans. But now, because of the outstanding debt, with households being up, having gotten up to 13.3 trillion, not to mention corporate debt of about 6 or 7 trillion, and government debt at 22 trillion, the overall amount of indebtedness out there is starting to concern some companies, and they're starting to take another look at pushing at least household or consumer loans so aggressively. They don't want to be on the wrong side of the table when you have a severe economic turndown like what we're expecting. Other than that, my name is Monty Henry, owner of DPO Surveillance Equipment. I run a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties in all the products. We have 24/7, 365 tech sales and customer support. We have perhaps the largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent and lay away as well. And we do have 24/7, 365 tech sales and consumer support on the products. All of them are lifetime guaranteed and warranted. All of them are supported around the clock. All of them are law enforcement grade products, state of the art. And we also accept Bitcoin in our shopping cart. That includes Litecoin, Bcash, and Ethereum. So for your crypto millionaires who got in early, like me and my wife, we got in early as well, 4 or 5 years ago or something. You should have more discretionary income than the average person. I'm getting way too many phone calls from people, and I'll try to tie all this in, from people who are not able to afford quality products, particularly from companies made in the United States. One customer just this morning was talking about how he preferred not to buy from companies based in the United States, and how he was suggesting that I take a closer look at selling cheaper products from other countries, particularly those outside the United States. And this is my problem, you guys, just to make sure, just in case you ever call me. I'm not interested in this race to the bottom, okay? If people can't afford to buy quality products, especially from manufacturers, the few that are still within the United States, then, you don't bother calling me, because I'm going to try to put more emphasis on, first of all, quality. I don't care about cheap. I don't care about negotiating for the last $5 in profit. What I care about is you getting the highest quality product that I can find, and you resting assured that I'm going to support that product around the clock, and that you don't have to, bother with the idea of a cheap product breaking down after 6 months or something like that, and you got to buy another one and another one and another one, and pretty soon you realize that all the cheap products that you bought, you could have bought an expensive product that wasn't actually going to last for a while. So as far as I'm concerned, we don't need to play around in that manner. What else is going on? The website is completely redesigned, optimized for mobile and smart devices, iPads, PDAs, etc., etc. So go to the website and take a look around and see. Read the articles. Take a look at the free information. We cover cybersecurity, and we first of all, the media center is very large and growing every day. This podcast is going to be included, by the way. We cover cybersecurity, and this podcast will be on cybersecurity. We also cover, cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, health and fitness, economics and finance, surveillance, counter-surveillance, of course, anti-terrorism, technologies and equipment. We cover that. And then there's a huge miscellaneous category where everything else is going to be put in there. And what else is going on? Other than that, let's take a look at the article, because it's a lot of information, and let's see if we can cover as much as possible within the time frame that I have. Let's see. Speaking of products made overseas or the overall economic impact of what we buy and where we buy it, let's take a look at what China is doing in relation to equipment provided from China into our supply chains here in the United States. This article, okay, it's entitled Chinese Tech Shares Tumble on Spying Concerns. Again, Chinese tech shares tumble on spying concerns. Shares of China's Lenovo and ZTE fall more than 10% each. The escalating trade fight between Washington and Beijing is sending a chill through investors in Chinese technology companies that sell to the United States. Hong Kong-listed shares of Lenovo Group Limited, the Chinese maker of PCs and servers, fell 15% on Friday, while shares of ZTE Corporation, which makes smartphones and telecommunications equipment, shed 11%. The sell-off comes as the United States-China trade dispute ratchets up, bringing renewed scrutiny of the global technology supply chain and the potential vulnerabilities and security risks it entails. A report in Bloomberg Businessweek on Thursday said Beijing spied on the United States using microchips, inserted in computing components built for an array of American tech companies. Concerns about Chinese spying will likely be a big part of the next phase of the trade war, Matty Greenspan, an analyst at online trading platform eToro, said on Friday. Other Asian internet and hardware companies fell Friday following a decline in U.S.-listed pairs overnight. Taiwan's tech-heavy index, the TAIEX, dropped nearly 2%, while with Chinese PC maker Acer Incorporated dropping more than 5%. Lenovo said the chip maker linked in the Bloomberg report to Beijing spying efforts. It's called Super Micro Computer Incorporated. Is not a supplier to Lenovo in any capacity. Furthermore, as a global company, we take extensive steps to protect the ongoing integrity of our supply chain. Super Micro Computer said it has never found any malicious chips, nor being informed by any customer that such chips have been found. ZTE declined to comment. For years, U.S. authorities have expressed concern that some Chinese products could be used to spy on Americans, with the attention falling largely on telecom giants Huawei Technologies Company and ZTE. Both companies have long denied that they act on behalf of Beijing, and Chinese authorities have voiced similar concerns about American companies operating on their shores. So it looks like this is a game of tit for tat. China has concerns about American companies, and American companies have concerns about Chinese companies. And when elections and such are coming up, politicians want to jump in and talk about what this country is doing and that country is doing and what we should be doing about it. But you guys need to consider these supply chains are so interconnected, it's hard to tell the American part of it versus the Chinese part of it anymore. The bottom line for these companies is they want to sell products. They want to make a lot of money. So a lot of rhetoric that has to do with who's spying on who, that may not be the most important things, considering that if the United States wanted to manufacture the equipment, including chips, here in the United States, that we would do that. We would pay the price. But unfortunately, we don't put our money where our mouth is, and we subcontract out and outsource everything overseas, and then if there's any repercussions, you deal with the repercussions after the fact. But the bottom line is everybody wants to make as much money as possible. So when you have compromises in your security, I guess that's the cost of doing business, right? So moving right along. More recently, the industry has been caught up in the intensifying spat between Beijing and Washington. The U.S. tariffs on roughly $250 billion in Chinese exports have fallen heavily on China's technology sector, which builds a vast range of components for major Western tech firms. China has responded with tariffs of $110 billion on U.S. exports. So basically, these idiots on both sides of the globe are using the raising of the tariffs as a smokescreen, because when you go into a recession, everybody's going to pay more money for everything. And right now, tariffs have absolutely nothing to do with the fact that we're going into a recession, and every corporation is going to be raising prices because of you're going to have sluggish consumer demand. That means you got to make more money off of the existing smaller number of customers that you get patronizing your corporations. So remember, tariffs are just the smokescreen, or the distraction. So because when you go into a recession, everything goes up. Everything becomes more expensive. The dollar has little or no value, and people are going to be spending more money for the same goods and services, and there is no avoiding that. So read between the lines, you guys. On Thursday, Vice President Mike Pence aired a long list of grievances with Beijing and criticized Google parent Alphabet Incorporated for trying to develop a censored version of its search engine in China, where internet access is restricted. He also reiterated concerns raised by President Donald Trump that Beijing is meddling in the coming U.S. midterm elections. Again, that's political rhetoric. That's a distraction. That's a smokescreen. The real issue here is most major corporations and the heads of the countries, they know that when you enter a recession, everything goes up. And if you want to say it's a trade war, call it a trade war. If you want to say it's unfair dumping or something, you call it whatever you want to call it. But the bottom line is the global supply chain, it links every company now with each other, part suppliers, vendors. Everyone is so well connected and integrated that there is no distinction anymore between the American side and the Chinese side and the other side. So moving right along. A spokeswoman for China's foreign ministry on Friday said Mr. Pence made unwarranted accusations in accusing China of interfering in U.S. internal affairs. This is nothing but speaking on hearsay evidence, confusing right and wrong, and creating something out of thin air, she said. A Google spokeswoman declined to comment. Separately, a White House report on Thursday said U.S. industries tied to national defense face an unprecedented set of challenges. They have curbed their ability to quickly make crucial military components. These unprecedented set of challenges that have curbed their ability to quickly make crucial military components. I think the time has already passed where we can make crucial military components because those components have been outsourced. The making of the components are in China. So whoever made that stupid statement is probably 20 years too late, if not 30. U.S. military officials have in recent months become vocal about their concerns over the vulnerability of weapon systems to embedded hardware and software attacks. Ellen Lord, the Pentagon's chief weapons buyer, told reporters Thursday that 90% of the printed circuit boards used by the United States military came from Asian plants, half of them in China. The Pentagon has adopted a two-pronged approach to address potential threats, auditing U.S. defense companies for their cybersecurity measures and taking steps to promote more domestic production, including direct investment to expand U.S. output. Again, if you think there's going to be more direct investment in U.S. manufacturing, you got it wrong because, again, Americans and American companies are not going to pay extra money to buy American. So for the foreseeable future, you're going to have more outsourcing of these components and this equipment, even in the spy industry, the surveillance and security equipment industry, where my company operates in. We know full well that most Americans are going to buy from foreign countries. They're not going to want to pay the money to buy American. Okay, that's out of the question. So any way of avoiding this is not going to happen. Okay. Americans are broke. Americans are too cheap, and they don't understand what price they're paying ultimately when it comes to buying American. Moving right along. In Hong Kong, attention was on the steep pullback in shares of Lenovo. The company is a top seller of PCs and a major supplier of servers worldwide, which it sells under the IBM brand name. Lenovo bought the server arm of International Business Machines Corporation in 2014 and the unit has been its key driver of growth in recent years. About a third of the company's revenue came from the Americas region in its last fiscal year. Kevin Tam, an analyst at Core Pacific Yamachi International in Hong Kong, said supply chain worries could have an adverse impact on Lenovo's overseas sales. Shenzhen-based ZTE has for years been a top seller of smartphones to the United States. The company has long been the subject of scrutiny by Washington due to its concerns its equipment could be used by Beijing to spy on Americans, which the company has consistently denied. This year, the U.S. slapped ZTE with an order preventing American suppliers from selling to the Chinese firm for violating the terms of a settlement agreement resolving its evasion of U.S. sanctions. The U.S. Commerce Department later reversed the order in exchange for more than $1 billion in penalties and a change of senior leadership. Hong Kong-listed shares of GTE have lost 57% this year. China expands. Okay, moving right along to the next session. That last section, I don't know if you were paying attention, but the embedded chips in our servers, particularly IBM's Lenovo company. Lenovo is not an IBM company. IBM sold its server business to Lenovo some time ago, and no one anticipated how serious of an issue that could become, because that server business now is responsible for most of the chips that are sold back into the United States. Our major corporations, U.S. corporations, are buying servers with embedded chips in them that seem to be compromised. So, again, I don't know if there's any such thing as privacy anymore. I don't know if it really matters because, again, I don't know whether or not this is just stupid and retarded mistakes on our behalf, or whether or not, the United States is doing the same thing in China that China's doing with the U.S. companies as far as compromising security. But this is so prevalent that there can't be any secrets. So what we're hearing is probably just a lot of rhetoric. And these guys probably don't want to do anything to change the way they operate right now. Otherwise, they would have done it a long time ago. The next session is entitled, China Expands Its Cybersecurity Rulebook, Heightening Foreign Corporate Concerns. Another wave of regulations is likely to compound a chilling effect among foreign firms with Chinese operations. New cybersecurity rules will give Chinese authorities sweeping powers to inspect companies' information technology and access proprietary information, steps that are likely to deepen concerns among foreign businesses about their China's operations. Starting November 1st, police officers will have the authority to physically inspect businesses and remotely access corporate networks to check for potential security loopholes, according to the regulations released Sunday by the Public Security Ministry. Police will also be authorized to copy information and inspect records that may endanger national security, public safety, and social order, the rule said. The regulations flesh out some of the broad powers that regulators were granted last year in an expansive cybersecurity law, according to William Nee, an analyst at Amnesty International. It strengthens the state's authority to inspect and requires that Internet service providers and companies using the Internet are fully compliant with the government's cybersecurity prerogatives. The cybersecurity law mandates security checks of technology products supplied to the Chinese government and to critical industries such as banking and telecommunications. It also requires companies to store data in China. Foreign businesses have criticized the law, saying that Beijing could use it to force the disclosure of source codes and other corporate secrets to prove their equipment was secure and then potentially leak the information to domestic competitors. Many businesses have sought to comply with Beijing's tightening cybersecurity requirements to maintain access to the Chinese market. Microsoft Corporation has opened what it calls a transparency center in Beijing where officials can test its products for security. Apple Incorporated has started building a data center in the southwestern province of Guangzhou to comply with rules requiring cloud data from Chinese customers be stored in China. The new regulations also reinforce requirements on censorship and surveillance laid out under cybersecurity law. Companies will be held responsible for allowing prohibited information to circulate online, and Internet operators must also provide technical support to authorities doing national security or criminal investigations. These new rules will do nothing to assuage the foreign companies' worries about the security of their proprietary information, said William Zarrett, chairman of the American Chamber of Commerce in China, a trade group. The regulations grant authorities access to any information related to cybersecurity, a category so broadly defined as to include just about everything, he said. It justifies for the authorities the right to basically copy or access anything, Mr. Zarrett said. It doesn't seem like companies have a choice. Well, that's it for that particular article, that podcast and article, and I'll include this article with the podcast. Just want to point out that obviously the cost that Apple is paying in addition to Google and some of the others and Microsoft for operating in China, they've considered it more profitable or more rewarding as compared to the risk. And I can't imagine that it would be otherwise, because that market is so huge and those guys are making so much money. Apple didn't become a $1 trillion company by making stupid and wrongful decisions and mistakes. So basically, I think these guys are making as much money as they are because they're making smart decisions. And you guys need to consider that, obviously, doing business in China, despite all of the risks, seems to be offset by the rewards. So anyway, we're going to wrap up this particular session, and I hope you guys got something out of it. And as we like to say at the conclusion of every podcast, be safe out there and keep your eyes and ears open. And have a great day. Thanks.